Good day, everyone. My name is Rich Chester, and I'm the Director of Business Intelligence at LPA Software Solutions. It's my pleasure to be with you today for our short webinar on the new features and functions in version 11.1.1 dashboards in Cognos Analytics. We're shortening today's webinar to a half an hour, in part due to the feedback we've received from folks like yourselves who have asked for shorter, more digestible in a single sitting webinars. So we're giving that a try today and going to go with a 30-minute webinar. As a result of shortening the webinar, we're going to also try out removing from the end of the webinar the question and answer period where I attempt to answer questions that you have submitted through the webinar. I still want you to submit questions. It's just that all questions that you submit will be answered after the webinar concludes via email, thus enabling us to get as much content into our 30 minutes together as possible. If you have feedback on that approach, please do share that with us also via the web chat. We're constantly trying to improve to make these webinars as useful for you as possible. So let's get started. This webinar, like all our webinars, is being recorded, and you can pick up any recorded webinar off of our website, lpa.com, in the resources section. There you'll find our entire series on version 11.0 and 11.1, as well as some deep dives into different areas like analytics and manufacturing. LPA is not just business intelligence. We also do analytics and financial performance management, advanced analytics. We are a partner with Pitney Bowes, and there are websites on the Pitney Bowes offerings for analytics. All of those available on our website, lpa.com, and also on our YouTube channel. LPA has a collection of business intelligence services that you might find will add value to your analytics journey. We can help you with upgrades to version 11.1.1 from any previous version, 8.10, as well as upgrades from version 7 if you still are using Impromptu and Upfront and PowerPlay and PPES and so on. We provide managed services so that you can offload the day-to-day administration of your Cognos environments to LPA, freeing up your internal staff to do things that are perhaps more value added for those folks to do internally. We have a collection of report authors that could help you catch up on a backlog of reporting, create new reports, maybe convert a bunch of reports from previous or other technologies. We do health checks. If your environment is not performing up to snuff, if you are finding that certain things are slow or that your environment fails from time to time and you'd like to know if your environment has any installation issues or configuration issues that are contributing to those problems, we would be happy to come on site, examine your environments, and provide you with a written report on any opportunities there might be to improve or tune your system. And finally, we have a complete array of training services from administration and report authoring to a full day on dashboards, a full day on data modules, 5-day framework manager class, any business intelligence or Cognos Analytics class from an IBM technology perspective that you need, LPA can provide. Now, speaking of classes, and specifically a day-long dashboard class, LPA is offering for really the first time a class that I will be delivering on February 25th. This is going to be via the web, so this you could take from anywhere in the world, provided you have a fast enough internet connection. It's our dashboard class, and we'll have a little bit in there on the use of data sets, because we'll be using data sets in some of the examples as we do our dashboards. This is a $475 per student class. You can go to the web address that's there on the screen. Also, if you just go to lpa.com, click on events, and go to our event calendar, you'll be able to click on this public training event and then go and register from there. It might be easier than trying to jot down that long URL. Class size is limited.
In the class, I will be demonstrating, and you will be working, because you'll have a VM that you'll be working on as well, the 11.1 functionality. And I will point out during the class which features are unique to 11.1.1 and which features you could also use if you happen to be on 11.0. So hopefully this will be informative for those of you who are on 11.0, as well as those of you who have upgraded to 11.1.1 or are just thinking about upgrading to 11.1.1. So full hands-on over the internet. Please register now, because the class size is limited and it is filling up. So what's new in Cognos Analytics dashboards in the version 11.1.1, which was released at the end of November of 2018. So do please submit questions as we go via the WebEx chat. I will answer all of those questions via email after today's webinar is over. And also, if you have feedback on this shortened webinar format that you'd like to share, you can also share that via the WebEx chat. We would love to hear from you. So let's talk about the different enhancements that are part of the 11.1.1 upgrade. Normally, I would take you through all of these enhancements that are listed on the next 4 slides. Yes, there are 4 slides of enhancements and a little bit of detail before we jumped into the demo. But again, because we are abbreviating the time here, I'm just going to give you some highlights, and I would invite you to snap a copy of the screen if you want more details from the slides themselves. Copy and paste is Control-C, Control-V, has been introduced in throughout the 11.1.1 release. Interesting that you can copy visualizations now from dashboards and stories and explorations to other dashboards and stories and explorations. You can even copy from those objects to reports. At the moment, you can't copy from reports to the other objects, dashboard, stories, explorations. IBM tells me that that's coming in a future release, but is not supported. So report to something else, not supported yet. Something else, dashboard, story, exploration, to report is supported, provided that your data source for the widget you're copying is either a data module or a package. Lots of layout helpers on dashboards now, from a grid on the canvas to snapping to grid or snapping to object, or both. As you move objects around on the canvas, you get alignment lines that show you how you're aligning to the other widgets that are on your screen. You can set custom page sizes now or use from a collection of pre-built ones. So lots of layout enhancements. You can create custom color palettes now. You can create both heat type palettes as well as categorical palettes. And you can not only create them, you can save them and reuse them again across your dashboard, stories, and explorations, as well as you can reuse those palettes in reports if you're using visualizations from the 11.1 visualization library. All dashboards are now tabbed dashboards. That's the default. But if you want to hide the tabs, in other words, you have a one-tab dashboard and you don't want to have the tab appear, you can turn that off in a property sheet. The tabs themselves, you can change the title color. You can actually change the indicator that shows which tab you're on. You can change that color. The property sheets have all been reorganized. They're organized now into category, which should make things a bit easier to find. There is a bunch of new properties. In addition to all of the color properties that are there now, you have properties now to very precisely size a widget. So instead of having to do it by dragging with your mouse, you can go to the property sheet and specify an explicit height and width for any widget in the dashboard. For widgets that have axes that have labels on them, you can customize the axis labels in terms of how they're presented, but you can also change their scale of axes. You can add and change the titles to axes and so on. Again, all from this reorganized properties pane. IBM has chosen to integrate with
various collaboration tools as part of the 11.1 release sequence. The very first one they've done with 11.1.1 is the tool called Slack. So if you're a Slack user, you can configure 11.1 to use Slack and as many channels actually as you wish to configure because Slack is a multi-channel tool. And then you can share your dashboards and stories right on Slack very easily from the interface. Formatting numbers has always been something in 11.0 that was frustrating. If you created a ratio in a calculation, you had no option to to format that ratio or number as a percentage within the dashboard. You know, if you did that in a data module, you could set the format in the data module, but if you did your calculation in the dashboard, that wasn't there, but it's there now. Both currency and percentage formats are now supported. There's a new insight tool. There's a little badge that will show up on the data that you can turn on, and it will give you information along the lines of what is the average of the values on your chart. And let me highlight the meaningful differences on your chart. I'll show you an example of that. You can export dashboards as stories. You used to have to sort of start over. If you wanted to convert a dashboard to a story, you had to sort of create a story and then pin your visualizations and then drag them onto your story. Now it's just a save option. Stories have changed. There's new scene templates for stories. There's new animation properties in stories. There's this notion of a navigation marker in a story that lets the presenter control how widgets are revealed in a scene rather than have that just be by timing. You can easily change your story types across both tools, dashboards and stories. There is this notion of a bunch of new visualizations. I think most of you are probably aware that the Watson Analytics tool has been retired, and instead the Watson Analytics functionality has been integrated into the 11.1 release. And in dashboards, that manifests as some new visualizations that will give you insights about your data. The why is this outcome happening? The why is this value? What is the driver for this value? And you can add those to your dashboard. And then finally, there's this English language, natural language processing assistant, the AI assistant, where I can type in my analytical intentions, as IBM says, in English, and it will interpret them and it will respond with visualizations and other stuff to try to satisfy your analytics request. An awful lot of terrific updates in the 11.1.1 release. Let's take a look at a few of those. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a file to analyze in a dashboard. So I've got a CSV file over here. I'm simply going to drag that onto my canvas. Now you note that I have this new quick launch come up. I could just upload it and save it and analyze it later. But if I know I want to use this in a data module, an exploration, or a dashboard, I can drop it on top of that quick launch, and it will auto launch that tool after it's uploaded. Now, this is new, this details view of the upload, and it's going to upload the file. It's going to analyze the file and store some metadata about the columns and try to do data types and some defaults like that. It's also going to apply some Watson Analytics technology to try to add some additional intelligence or what IBM refers to as knowledge of the data and store that with the data. And that enables some of the analyses I'll be showing you in a moment as far as the Watson Analytics root cause driver type analyses that are enabled on data in a dashboard with this release. Let me close the upload. It auto-launched creating a dashboard because that was the quick launch I chose. I'm going to do the tabbed layout and this no drop zone layout specifically. But notice in 11.1, I don't have 3 options over here under dashboard. I have 2. The single page is gone. I'll show you what that was replaced by. Infographic is still the same as it was. Also in the layouts, there was a free form entry here in 11.0. That's gone. I'll show you where that went in the new tool. For now, let's go ahead and get a blank canvas. So because I used quick launch, there's my spreadsheet that I uploaded, my CSV file that I uploaded. Here is my canvas. It's got this new grid on it. It has a default tab. Now open the property sheet. You'll notice that the canvas properties are open. I'm just going to close it to show you what I meant when I said that property sheets are all categorized now. Since there's so many more properties, this is a big helper in terms of finding the properties I want. I just expand the collection of properties that I need. I'm going to re-expand Canvas and just talk to you. That freeform layout that was part of tabbed and single page in 11.0 has been replaced with a property for relative and absolute positioning. So relative indicates, and that's the default, it indicates that when I present this dashboard on a very large screen, it's going to auto resize the items on it to fit that screen. Whereas absolute, which used to be the freeform template, would not auto resize those items. Relative is the default. I'm going to leave it relative. So that's what happened to one of the things we're used to. The other thing we're used to is that we used to be able to pick a single page layout for my dashboard. That's now the Show Tabs property. So when I have exactly one tab on my dashboard, I could turn it off. And this gives me that single page look that I had in 11.0. If I have more than one tab, let me just quickly add a second tab. You see I can't turn off the tabs when there's more than one. I can only turn them off when there's exactly one tab. I can change the title color and the selection indicator color, and I will show you more about colors after we add some data to our canvas. So color and color flexibility is pervasive in the dashboard tool now with all of the changes that have been made in 11.1.1. So I will show you the colors in a moment. I'm going to maximize my screen here so that I can have a reasonably big canvas. I'm also going to close my property sheet just so I have some more room here. I'll be opening it again in a moment. First, I'm going to drag some data onto my canvas. I'm going to click on product line, control click on revenue, drag that on. And you'll see Cognos will present me with a visualization that I can resize. Now watch when I resize. Look at the indicators. It's giving me a % usage of my available canvas space. So that's a nice helper. As I move it, you see it's giving me an XY coordinate, so that it helps me with the positioning there as well. Now, the new thing that you might have noticed in the top right corner, this Insights badge, this means that because it analyzed the data and because of the data that I'm displaying, it has some interesting additional information that I could optionally show. If I click on that badge, I can turn on the insights and either work with the average or this meaningful difference notion that it found. So you see I can turn off the average bit and or the meaningful differences bit. But with both of them on, the average is going to be highlighted on this widget. And the meaningful difference is that the value of revenue is unusually high for the product line photography. Okay, so with those enabled, if I click onto the widget, you see the average bit stays. If I hover up here, it just says Insights. But if I hover over the photography, not only does it tell me it's photography, and it tells me the revenue, which is what it would have done in 11.0, it also includes that meaningful insight. You see, it doesn't include one here. It doesn't say this one's unusually low because that wasn't an insight. This one is the one that has an insight. That's why it's highlighted. So it's up to me whether I actually enable those in the widget or not. So that's new, and again, that's a manifestation of this notion of the Watson Analytics capabilities, now part of Cognos Analytics. I'm going to drag order year onto my widget so that I can get some lines, and I'm going to resize this guy just a smidge. Now let's suppose I wanted to format this data over here. My data formatting options were fairly limited in 11.0. I'm going to expand this widget, and I'm going to show you the formatting available to me in 11.1.1. So I can, auto means use the formatting that was baked into the data source. Now, because this is an uploaded spreadsheet, there was no formatting baked into this one, this CSV file. If this were a data module, then the modeler would perhaps have put a format on the revenue column, and auto says use the format that the modeler put on in the data module, but I can override that. So I'm going to override it as currency, and I can change the number of decimals if I wish. I can turn on or off the thousands separator. In 11.0, we had this notion of abbreviate, which was going to auto scale the numbers. I can turn on abbreviate. That's still here. If I just show you quickly, it's done the 16 million. Now you see there's no currency indicator over there, which perhaps I'd like to have. So I could pick a currency, because it doesn't know which currency indicator to show unless I tell it what currency I'm using, and then I can tell it to display the currency symbol. And having done that, you see I have currency. So just a quick look at some of the formatting. So you see I formatted revenue in the widget. I could have formatted it here in the data source. And if I had done it here, then anytime I use revenue in the rest of the dashboard, it will inherit my custom format. By doing it in the widget here, it's really a private format for just this widget. So I have both options in terms of data formatting. Let's get back to color that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to open the property sheet for this widget, and you'll see that, and I'm going to go ahead and minimize that so we can see more of the widget. There we go. So I've got a palette selected, and this is the default palette that it selects, but you notice I can change color palettes. And there is a collection of palettes that come with the tool, just like there was in 11.0. And there's this recently used list of the palettes that I've used before. But there's a new feature in 11.1.1 that would let me create my own palette, which was something I think a lot of us asked for after from 11.0, that was one of the things that we thought was missing. I'm going to click the Create a Custom Palette button. I'm going to bring up the palette tool. Now there's two palette tools. There's a palette tool for categorical colors, which, for example, would be the colors of my bars. On widgets that can display a heat set of colors that go from light to dark in intensity. You can also define those as a custom palette. In this case, that doesn't apply to this particular widget, but so you can customize heat as well as categorical palettes. And there's two modes that you would color by in a categorical palette, and that is automatic or custom. It's set to automatic here. Automatic says you pick the starting color, Rich, and I'll pick the rest. And you can start in the middle of the palette, by the way, and pick a starting color, and I'll just fill in the rest of the swatches. That's automatic. Custom is where you pick the colors you wish individually, swatch by swatch. By the way, there's 10 swatches here. That doesn't mean I'm limited to 10. I can delete swatches if I have too many. I can add swatches if I have too few. So color automatic or custom. Now, there's also this wheel notion. I'm going to click on this guy. I have automatic selected, and I'm going to click in the wheel, and I'm going to pick a color. And you see it leverages the color I pick. I can also type in the formula for the color, both in RGB and in HSB mode here. And so I have this complete control over the exact color I can use swatch by swatch, or if I'm automatic, as my starting color. So I'm going to start with that nice red, use automatic. I've created it. I'm going to give the palette a name. Now, once I save this palette, not only can I use it again and again within the dashboard, I can also use it on all the dashboards and explorations and stories I write from now on. And I can even use that palette on visualizations in a report that come from the 11.1 visualization library in my report. So this custom palette I've just created is mine. And in other words, I don't have a way to share this with my friend and neighbor. But once I've created it for me, I can use it anywhere in the tool so that I can define once and use many. So complete control over the colors that I'm using. I'm going to go back here and minimize color. I'm going to go to axis. Now, I'm not going to have time to show you absolutely every axis property, but there are many. One of the ones I will show you quickly, though, item axis would be where it says order year now. I can have it say whatever I type in here, and you'll see that it updates to my custom value. Yeah, so I have control over my axes. Whoops, I changed property sheets. Let me select back here. I can turn off the axis titles. I can control the orientation of my my labels here. Automatic is the default. It says Cognos, do your best to fit them in, but if I want them at 45 degrees, I can just set them. I can show these right next to it. It's very hard to see, I think. There are little minuses here and little lines here. Those are the ticks. If I don't like those ticks, I can turn them off. Very subtle, may not even be visible via the webinar, but you can see I have an awful lot of control over the look and feel now of my axes, in addition to having formatted my axis for my revenue. So lots of options there. I just don't have time to show you absolutely everything. I will show you this, though. I'm going to turn on the title for this this visualization, and this is revenue by product line year over year. And you'll see now I have this sort of style toolbar for my titles, so I can change the colors. So I could change to a particular color. I could change the size. I actually have a collection of fonts, some very interesting fonts: Condiment, Cherry Soda. Not quite sure where all of these came from. No, I did not load these. These are the ones out of the box. I'm going to go to Lobster. My youngest's nickname is Oswald, so that's a particular favorite of mine. I can reset to the defaults if I wish, but I have, as you can see, far more control now over the look and feel of these titles than I had in 11.0. And you see I can make changes over here in the property sheet in addition to making those changes right here off of this new toolbar. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new visualization now. So just like in 11.0, I can add a visualization by adding data to the canvas, or I could pick the visualization I want, and I could tell and then populate it with data, right? So I'm going to pick this new visualization, again, an incorporation of this Watson technology into Cognos Analytics for me. The spiral diagram is to understand drivers for a particular outcome, and specifically for numeric outcomes like revenue or customer lifetime values. I'm going to take one of my measures, my customer lifetime value measure, drop it where it says target. Cognos is now going to perform a pretty sophisticated analysis of the data in my spreadsheet and try to help me understand the drivers that are causing my customer lifetime value outcomes to be what they are. And it's saying that there is a 65% influence of the combination of quantity sold and coupon response that seems to control the value of lifetime values. So, maybe quantity, quantity sold, maybe how many they bought versus lifetime value, not the most interesting insight in the galaxy. Coupon response, though, might not have been real obvious from my data, but because of the analysis it did, it told me, that this combination of buying things with a coupon is really driving the overall customer value for me. So that's going to give me, food for thought, some things to think about, right, when I analyze my data or when I consider how to react to my data. So I didn't have to find that insight. The spiral diagram found that insight for me. Now, if I wanted to analyze this data more, I could click on it, Control C, which will copy that asset. and I could then launch a visualization. I could launch exploration right from here on that data, and either add it to an existing exploration or do a new, or I could do a new exploration, and I could just paste it, this analysis in. So if I go here and I create a new card, and then I paste that asset in, not only does it bring that asset in for analysis, but it also brings it in so I could do additional work with the entire spreadsheet. But today is not about explorations. I just wanted to show you that cut and paste works that way, and that you can easily, so I just did another paste here, Control V. You can easily duplicate things with Control C, Control V. Now, if this were not a spreadsheet, but it were a data module or a package, I could actually even paste it into a new report, which I think is really a useful thing. So new visualizations relative to Watson Analytics type analyses of my data. New visualizations, just in general, a beefing up of the visualization look and feel overall. I've got these little badges up here for insights into my data in general, and two ways so far to look at my data. Drag and drop onto my canvas, use one of the new visualizations, and have Cognos do a specific analysis for me. The last one I'm going to show you in terms of how to add data to your canvas is I'm going to use the AI assistant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it a question, show my data, and it's going to go out and show me these are all the data sources I found that you have access to, Rich. And I can click on one and it can show me more information about that data. But I could also do this, show quantity sold by loyalty status. And it will come up with a collection of visualizations that appear to, or that Cognos thinks might satisfy the need I just described. Yeah. So this was called intent-based visualizations in 11.0. This assistant still does these intent-based visualizations, as you can see, but it also has some machine learning going on, so it learns my preferences. In other words, if I always pick the bubble chart, it's going to put the bubble first. If I never pick a word cloud, it's going to stop suggesting word clouds, things like that. But it is also able to do things like show me my data and this show related visualizations. So I asked for one thing, it's showing me another. So loyalty status by product line. So it's gone beyond just answering what I asked, what the intent visualization tool did in 11.0, and it's giving me more help maybe in terms of finding a visualization that I can use, but also taking me beyond what I asked for and looking at things that are related to what I asked for. So many helpers baked into this artificial intelligence bot that we are able to ask English questions of in 11.1.1. They don't support other languages as yet. And I can see that I'm basically out of time in our shortened approach to this webinar. So hopefully you got some good clues as to what is happening in the world of dashboards in version 11.1.1. Don't forget that LPA is offering a full day class that I will be teaching on February 25th. Go to lpa.com, look at our events calendar, click into the 25th, and you'll be able to register for that class if you wish. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I look forward to the next time that we can spend time together. And all of the questions that you've submitted through the WebEx chat, I will answer via email after today's webinar. Thank you very much.